She told them she was single. I stood there, in the sterile lobby of her downtown office, holding the small plastic rectangle that still had her lipstick smudged faintly across its corner. The same badge she'd kissed goodbye every morning before work. And now, I wasn't her husband. I was just a stranger. That's what the security guard told me. She says she doesn't know you. It's funny how fast your heart can turn to glass. This all started because of a badge, a damn plastic badge. She left it in my car the night before, after our usual post-gym sushi run. It was sitting right there on the passenger seat, caught between the seatbelt buckle and her favorite chapstick. She'd been laughing when she got out. Something about how she finally beat me in planks. That laugh used to mean home to me. She didn't realize it was missing until the next morning. I got a text, short and distracted. Hey, think I left my badge in your car. Need it before 10, can you drop it off? No, please. No, thank you. Just business casual urgency. I didn't think much of it at the time. We'd been off lately, sure, but I chalked it up to stress. Her job had been pulling longer hours, lots of nights where she came in after midnight, showered, and collapsed into bed without saying much. I'd asked once if everything was okay. She said it was just work. Always work. So I drove the badge to her office like a good husband. Brought her favorite oat milk latte too, trying to be thoughtful. I rehearsed a joke in the elevator, something light, a little flirty. Something to break whatever fog had been growing between us. But when I got to the front desk, the security guard frowned like I'd just wandered in off the street. She doesn't have you listed on her access. I blinked. Sorry. Her profile. It's restricted. No visitors, no emergency contacts. She says she's single. He said it flat, like it was just a line from a script. Like he didn't just split my whole life down the middle. I laughed, or tried to. We've been married for 5 years. He didn't laugh with me. I showed him a wedding photo on my phone. Us in Yosemite, standing under the redwoods. Her hand in mine, that stupid crooked smile I fell in love with. He looked at it, then back at me like I'd forged it. Sorry, sir. You'll have to wait here. That's when it hit me. She wasn't going to come down. I waited 10 minutes. Then 20. Nothing. The guard offered me a seat. I stood. I couldn't sit. My legs felt like rubber bands pulled too tight. I texted her once. Then again. Nothing. At the 30-minute mark, I walked out, badge still in my hand, coffee cold in the tray. I didn't drive home. I sat in the car, engine running, staring through the windshield as people hurried past. Suits, heels, briefcases, lives in motion. I was motionless, like my life had paused and everyone else had just kept going. Was it possible she made a mistake in the system? Maybe she had some work security reason for listing herself as single. Some HR loophole. But deep down I knew. You don't forget to list your spouse. You don't tell security you're single unless you want to be. Unless you already are. That night, when she came home, late, again, I asked about it. Calmly. Too calmly, maybe. Why'd you tell your office you're single? She paused at the kitchen counter, dropping her keys with a clatter that sounded too loud. What are you talking about? I held up the badge. I tried to drop this off. Security said you're listed as single. No visitors. No emergency contacts. She stared at the badge like it was a ticking bomb. Her face didn't twist in shock, or guilt, or even confusion. Just stillness. Like she was choosing her next move very carefully. That's probably just old data, she said finally. I haven't updated it since I started. 5 years ago, she didn't blink. I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But her voice was too even. Her hands didn't fidget. That wasn't how my wife lied. She always twitched, scratched her wrist when she was nervous. This wasn't nerves. It was preparation. I didn't press further. I told her I was tired. We went to bed. She turned away from me like she had for weeks. Her breathing settled quickly, like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't stood in her lobby and been told I didn't exist. And me? I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, eyes dry. The next morning, while she showered, I checked her work email on our shared iPad. She'd forgotten to log out. What I found wasn't evidence of cheating, not yet. But it was something worse, in a way. Email after email addressed to her as Ms. instead of Mrs. Birthday invites to events I was never told about. Pictures from team outings, her leaning against a man I'd never met, eyes lit in a way I hadn't seen in months. No mention of a husband. Not in any of them. At work, she was single. Completely. Willfully. But why? That was the question that wouldn't let me go. Not if she was hiding me. I knew she was. Not even how long. I'd figure that out. It was why she wanted to be seen as someone she hadn't been in years. And who that man was, the one in the photos. That's when I started watching. Not accusing, not confronting, just watching. Because sometimes, the only way to know what someone's hiding is to pretend you don't see it at all. And so I did. For weeks. And what I found next was worse than I could have imagined. It started with a reflection. I was standing in our kitchen, scrubbing a plate half-heartedly, when I saw it. The soft glow of a phone screen reflected in the microwave door behind me. It wasn't hers. At least, not the one I knew. The case was different. Matte black, no pop socket. And it was in her gym bag. She was in the shower again. Always, it seemed, in the shower. I turned off the water just enough to hear the white noise of the pipes. Then I moved, careful, quiet, like I was defusing a bomb. Slid open the zipper. There it was, the second phone, screen locked, but buzzing faintly with a new message. My heart did this strange thing. It didn't race. It slowed, like it needed to conserve energy for what was about to come. I took a photo of the screen, of the lock screen wallpaper. Her, and that same man from the work photos. They weren't kissing, but they were close. Laughing, his hand resting a little too familiar on her lower back. I placed it exactly where I found it. Zipped the bag closed. Walked out. That night, I didn't ask her about it. I didn't sleep either. The next day, while she was at work, I called an old friend of mine from college, Marcus. He used to be deep in IT security before selling his startup. Smart guy, the kind of quiet genius who could clone a phone in 5 minutes flat. I'd once helped him through a nasty breakup. He owed me. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked after I told him everything. "No," I said, "but I think I need to." He helped me set up a sting. When she left the phone unattended again, which she did, 3 nights later, while taking a late-night bath, I mirrored it. We cloned the SIM. I could now see her texts, incoming and outgoing. Her location, call logs. It took all of 15 minutes. When she came back into the room, she had no idea that her second life was now bleeding into mine. The first messages I read that night weren't scandalous. They were mundane. Meeting reminders. Grocery lists. But the name that kept popping up, Tyler, wasn't one I recognized. Not in our circle. Not from work stories. Just Tyler. Their tone was casual. Intimate, but not romantic. Not yet. A slow burn. The kind of talk people have when they're waiting for the right moment to take the plunge. Then I saw the photos. Nothing explicit, but suggestive. A dinner. Just the two of them. A shot of their hands, almost touching on a tablecloth. A blurry pic of a concert stage, lights framing them in silhouette. Then came a text that broke whatever part of me was still holding out hope. I wish I didn't have to pretend at home. I hate lying to him. Tyler's reply was immediate. Soon. You'll be free soon. That word, free, hit harder than anything else. She didn't see me as a partner. She saw me as a prison. And she was already planning her escape. I didn't confront her that night. Or the next. I needed to know how deep this went. If there was still a line she hadn't crossed. Some part of her that hesitated. That weekend, she told me she had a team retreat, out of state. 3 days. Company hotel, packed schedule. She kissed my cheek, suitcase in hand. Said she'd call when she landed. She didn't. But her location told the truth. She was 2 cities over. Not at a hotel, but a rental cabin just outside a vineyard. With Tyler. That's when something in me hardened. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I just made a list. 1. I printed the texts. The photos. Every line, every timestamp, bound in chronological order. 2. I opened a new bank account. Transferred my savings. Slowly, in chunks. Legal. Clean. 3. I called our mortgage broker. Quiet inquiries about separating the deed. Just hypothetical, of course. 4. I met with a lawyer. Another old favor called in. We drafted papers, airtight, including clauses for infidelity. The irony? She'd insisted we never sign a prenup. Said it meant we didn't trust each other. 5. I waited. And on the 3rd night of her retreat, I drove out to the cabin. I didn't knock. I parked across the street, dimmed my headlights, and watched. She came out just after sunset, wine glass in hand, laughing. He followed. They kissed, soft, slow, like it had happened before and would happen again. And in that moment, whatever was left of the man I was, the husband, the romantic, the fool, it dissolved. But I didn't rage. I didn't storm the cabin or slash tires or shout accusations. I just drove home. The next morning, I placed the packet of evidence on her side of the bed, along with the divorce papers. I left the house before she returned, went to a quiet cafe, ordered black coffee, and watched the rain slide down the window. I didn't know what her reaction would be, but I knew one thing. I wasn't the ghost in her life anymore. I was the mirror, and she was about to see exactly what she'd become. She didn't call. Not after seeing the envelope. Not after reading the texts. Not after the photo of her and Tyler, his hand on the small of her back like it had been there 100 times before. She came home to silence. I didn't return until well after midnight, and even then, I didn't go into our bedroom. I slept, or tried to, on the couch. The house felt colder, like something sacred had been pulled from its walls. When I woke up, she was sitting across from me at the kitchen table. No coffee, no makeup, just stillness. "I can explain," she said. I looked at her, really looked, for the first time in months. She wasn't the woman I married. Or maybe she was, and I'd just ignored the parts that were always hiding. "Then explain," I said, my voice quieter than I expected. She looked away. "It didn't mean to happen. That's not an explanation." I felt trapped. Her voice cracked. "I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. Everything felt distant, like we were just going through motions." "So you told your work you were single?" I asked. "Started living two lives? That's the fix?" She didn't answer. I could have yelled. I could have thrown the envelope at her, pointed out every timestamp, every lie. But I'd already done the math. Rage wouldn't undo anything. "What was I to you, really?" I asked. "A placeholder? A safety net until something better came along?" "No." Her voice rose, desperate. "You are good. Steady. The kind of man every woman says she wants. But not the kind she stays with." Silence stretched between us, thick and honest. "I stopped wearing my ring at work," she admitted, barely audible. "It felt easier. Simpler. Like I could be someone else." "And Tyler?" I asked. "Was he part of that simplicity too?" She swallowed. "He listened. Made me feel seen." That line. Made me feel seen. As if the meals I cooked, the nights I stayed up talking through her anxiety, the anniversaries remembered, the jokes cracked to pull her out of a funk, none of that counted. Because someone else saw her through fresher eyes. "I was willing to go to counseling," I said. I asked. "You said you didn't need it." I didn't want to admit how far things had gone. "And now?" She hesitated. "Now I know I made a mistake." That was the cruelest part. Not the lie. Not the affair. The timing of her regret. She only realized what she had once she saw what she stood to lose. "I read the texts," I said. "You told him you wished you didn't have to lie to me anymore." Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't feel anything. No anger. No pity. Just exhaustion. "I wasn't enough for you," I said. "And you didn't have the courage to tell me. So you let me keep loving you in the dark, while you lived in the light somewhere else." She tried to reach across the table, but I pulled my hand away. "I don't hate you," I said. That surprised her. "I don't even think you're evil. I think you're human. Flawed. Afraid. Maybe even lonely." She nodded slowly. "But I also know this." I stood, picking up the envelope. "You don't get to lie your way back into trust." "I'll end it," she whispered. "Tyler. All of it." I looked at her, calm now. "It's already ended." She didn't follow me as I left the room. The divorce was clean. No drawn-out battles. No screaming matches. She didn't contest. Maybe she knew she couldn't. A few months later, I heard through mutual friends that Tyler had backed off once the truth came out. Apparently, he hadn't expected me to find out. Hadn't expected her to be serious about leaving a marriage. The fantasy crumbled under the weight of reality. That was the part no one tells you about infidelity. Sometimes, it's not about love or lust. It's about illusion. The illusion that there's an easier life waiting, one without compromise or consequence. But real love, the kind that lasts, it's messy, boring sometimes. It demands maintenance, honesty, resilience. And she'd traded that for attention. I moved out of the city, found a quiet place near the water, picked up woodworking again. Nothing fancy, shelves, frames, a coffee table. My hands stopped shaking at night. My breathing slowed. I don't hate her. I truly don't. But I've learned to love the quiet now. There's a peace in being seen, not by someone else, but by yourself. I was never the invisible one. She just stopped looking.